it's important for all of us who serve the public out there to recognize that our world is not the world. That our world is shaped by what we see, by what we experience, by everything around us. And our audience does not see our world. Their world is very likely a different place. We should never forget that. Now, sometimes it's helpful to bring our audience into our world. But most times it's more valuable for us to work to understand their world. Because when we deal with the world from our world's perspective, so oftentimes there are inaccuracies in that worldview that then shape everything we say, believe, and teach. So if we truly want to help the world, we need to understand that the world is not our world. So let's do a little exercise to see how well you do. What's the biggest city in the world? Let me know in the chat. What's the biggest city in the world? Okay. Now, let me just ask, if I was to take a list of the top 20 biggest cities in the world in terms of population, I'm sorry, I should have defined that. In terms of population, if I was to take a list of the top 20 cities in the world in terms of the populations, in population, how many of those are located in the United States? Oh, I just held that up. That's not saying that that's the answer. I was just holding this finger, got a little excited. Okay. And by the way, I'm not saying Facebook doesn't count. We're saying literal cities. Okay. All right. Second question. How many of those cities are in Europe? All of Europe. How many of the top 20 biggest cities in the world are in all of Europe? All right. Here we go. Let me show you the facts. Give me just a second here. All right, here we go. Just the facts. All right, world's top 20 cities by population size. Number 1 is Tokyo. Number 2 is Delhi in India. Shanghai, Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Dhaka. The capital. How many of you know where Dhaka is? It's the capital of Bangladesh. 21 million people. Cairo, Beijing, Mumbai, Osaka, New York. So New York, the largest city in the United States that we think is those who live in the United States, and probably most people who live in Europe thinks it's huge. It's 18 million. It's half the size of Tokyo. Karachi, Chongqing. What country is that in? Do you even know? Ever heard of it? I hadn't. Istanbul, Buenos Aires, Kolkata, which is Calcutta, Lagos, Kinshasa, Manila, Tianjin. I bet you didn't know, you've never heard of that city either. And I bet you for most of us, there's maybe another 1 or 2 in this list that we had never heard of. So a couple of things that you should be aware of. So 4 cities in this list are concentrated in China, 3 are in India, and 2 are in Japan. The largest city, Tokyo, has nearly 3 times the amount of people that the 20th largest city, Tianjin, has. By the way, Tianjin, you never heard of it? Let's just look at this. Those are pictures of Tianjin. Interesting. So when you think of China, is this what you think of? That's pretty cool. That's Tianjin. Let's take this next one. Sorry, I mispronounced. This is Kongjing. This is Shanjing. Okay, got it. Sorry, I apologize. I got my names mixed up. Here's Shanjing. Again, pretty cool. That's Beijing. That's Shanjing. But you've seen this. This is the picture of the library in there. Here's another picture of that library. I want that book right there. Would you please go get that for me? Okay. Oh, and we all thought that the big wheel. Oh, whenever we see that, whenever we see a picture of a big Ferris wheel, what do we think? We think London. It's not London. This is Shanjing. So just some perspective for all of us to look at here. That notice also, not one of these cities is in Europe. Okay, one of them is Istanbul, Turkey, but Turkey is technically in Asia, because when you cross that strait right there, you are then in Asia. So just be aware that we look at it and I bet you, my guess is that most of you, when I said how many of the largest cities in the world are in America, you probably thought 2, maybe 3. Maybe you thought Los Angeles and Chicago didn't even make the list. When I asked how many are in Europe, you probably thought London, maybe, I don't know, Paris, Munich, something like that, didn't even make the list. And notice 4 of the cities are in China. 3 are in India, 2 are in Japan. That piece, 2 being in Japan, that was a little surprising to me. Tokyo makes sense. I had not thought that Osaka would be there. So back to my point again. I've just shown you just a little glimpse of the world, of reality. Yet so many of us aren't even aware of what the largest cities are. I know I'm not. That's the reason I brought this up. And if we think about the world in terms of our family situation, our religion, our size and type of home, our lifestyle, just think about it this way. America is currently in the process of coming out of COVID. Last week, and I haven't heard data from this week, there was a day last week which had the largest death toll in history from COVID. But wait a minute. I thought we were coming out of it. No, most of the world is 2 years from coming out of it. We need to be aware of that. We need to be thinking, what are our audience members? What are our followers and our target audience experiencing in their lives? Just because our life is different than them doesn't mean that's reality. Just some perspective. Let me know, what do you think of this? Has this helped you to see something maybe you didn't even recognize before? Oh, hey, here's an interesting question. Let's just go back to this for just a second. How many of those cities are... Oh, I lost it. How many of those cities have the primary language? I can't show you. So we'll go back to this. How many of those cities have the primary language being English? Yeah. 1. There's another piece of perspective. Let me know your thoughts. What realizations did you get out of this? Has it given you any insights on the way that you look at the world? This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.